Hey guys, want to share with you a short video of a little talk we had inside our live room about indicators. Also want to remind you that starting October 24th, we'll be hosting a free online trading workshop. Registration link should be up soon, but keep an eye on this space and you'll be able to sign up as soon as it's active. Yeah, the RSI is interesting. And it depends on, many of you guys know about the RSI Greg strategy. It's depends on how you use it, because so in a trend continuation situation, I'm looking at the top of the RSI, right? Because I'm looking to trade the pullback. So I'm waiting for price to pull back, and I'm looking to trade the pullback in the direction to the downside. So per my personal trading, right? What I want to see is I want to see what I think is the exhaustion of the pullback, right? So we see that price action when it came down here. We went oversold, right? So oversold tells me that, or the action of going from here to here shows me that there's a lot of selling strength in the market. Does that make sense, guys? Because again, RSI is a momentum indicator, right? The more selling strength there is, the lower it will go. Keep in mind that it will fall oscillators that go between like a 0 and 100 mark. It's harder to move it the lower you get, right? So again, it's like the best example I can always give is like splitting something in half, right? If we start with the number 100 and I split it in half, it's a big chunk, it's 50. Then I split 50 in half, it's 25, it's a smaller chunk. Right? As I get lower and lower, right, the same amount of effort it takes to split something in half gives me less of a result, right? So if I use same amount of effort, 100 to 50, boom. Same amount of effort, 50 to 25, right? Same amount of effort, 25 to 12.5, right? Boom. But then when I get to like 1, same amount of effort, I'm only going to 1 to 0.5. So that's how these oscillators work, right? We go down to, it's easy to push it from in this middle zone from 60 to 40s. And then once we get to like these extremes, 30s, 20s, it's harder to push it lower. It takes more to push it lower, right? But in general, this shows you how much strength is in the market. So I know that there's a lot of selling strength in the market here. By the time we get super oversold, it doesn't tell me that this is a reversal, but kind of throw ball in the air theory, flipped for this version. It tells me that, hey, we may be running, there may be relief happening soon, because sellers aren't going to stay strong forever, right? When you see a good price in the store, sellers hop on. Eventually, as that price gets worse, just basics of supply and demand, there are less sellers interested. Unless it's toilet paper during COVID. That threw all the supply and demand rules out the water, right? Toilet paper during COVID. It didn't matter how much it cost. It was gold. I've got that in my little black book of notes for the next pandemic. Load up on toiletries. I got a little storage thing already ready. Stocked with Charmin. I'm gonna make a killing. But we're looking for relief, and then you see the market kind of gives us relief. So we're looking for the same thing on a pullback, right? So this one doesn't necessarily go overbought, but the same thing. Right? Price action pulls back, pulls back, pulls back. I'm looking for a point of exhaustion in this pullback to hop on the next extension down. So that's what I say when I'm looking at the top of the RSI. I'm looking for price action to come here or RSI to go here. And then I'm looking for a point where I'm saying, okay, the buyers have done a good job at pushing this up. And again, buyers are a combination of new buyers that are interested, also previous sellers that are cashing out on profit and becoming buyers, right? And I'm looking for the point where these buyers have become exhausted, where price was cheap and they said, ooh, this is a good buy. And then price got more expensive. And then newer buyers are like, a little bit too high for me, right? And then eventually there's a point where there's two things happening. One, there's not as many new buyers in the market. And then two, there are old buyers becoming sellers because, again, counter trend traders like me want to take some profit. And then we start seeing kind of the selling pressure take over again. So that's what I mean when I say I'm looking at the top of the RSI for, in this case, a bearish trend continuation opportunity. For a counter trend, I'm looking at the bottom of the RSI because I'm looking for where the trend becomes exhausted. Now, the weird thing, right, and this is where, again, I tell you about that book that you should never read, but it's a great book, but no, don't ever read that book. Don't ever read it. Promise me that. Imagine me like on my trading deathbed, and I'm like, Bud, promise me one thing. And I hold my hand out, Bud reaches it. You see that book to my left, Bud? He's like, yeah, Coach. Coach, I see it. Do you? Look me in my eyes, Bud. Do you see it? Yeah, Coach, I see it. Get to the point. You don't have much time left. I know, sorry. I get long-winded with these rants, as you know. But promise me, Bud, in this book, it's gold, it's greatness, it's knowledge. But it also comes with a curse. So don't ever read it. And then all of a sudden, right, Greystone busts in the door. He's like, trust me, Bud. Don't do it. And then he transforms into some type of beast because he opened the book years ago and it ruined his life forever. He's been cursed, right? And I pick on Bud because Bud's read the book and Bud's like, yes, it does. It's too late for me, but we can save others. But if we're looking at the book that shall go unnamed and unmentioned, we're looking at a little bit of a different thing, right? Because we're working in RSI zones, right? So instead of necessarily like a quote unquote normal pullback trader where you're looking for exhaustion in the market, looking for oversold and overboughtness, we're measuring the relative strength index a little bit different, right? Because we're saying, hey, a bearish trend should remain in this area, right? A bearish trend should remain between our 20 and our 60. So this RSI should remain in this level. A bullish trend should remain between our 40, and it's really like 33. I'm not going to get into big details with numbers, but it should remain between our 40 and our 80, right? So this is our bullish zone, and this is our bearish zone. So it kind of contradicts what you're thinking of, where if we're talking, hey, I'm looking for a pullback to become overbought, to show me that there's buying pressure and there's massive amount of buying strength, and I'm looking for exhaustion to come down, it kind of conflicts with our zones here because overbought is obviously above our 60 level. And if price gets above our 60 level, we're no longer in that bearish trend, and we shouldn't be looking for bearish opportunities, right? So just like I told you earlier about if you're going to be a trend continuation in a counter trend trader at the same time, you have to be very strict with your process. That way you know what you're looking for in what scenarios. And again, we break it down with that normal 4-step process, IPDE. So after we identify and we predict, we decide, right? I guess before we decide what direction of the market am I looking for, right? Before we open that door I told you about, we're telling ourselves, boom, I'm bearish. I've made up my mind. Boom, I'm bullish. I've made up my mind. And we're not just making this stuff up. We're doing it off the analysis, obviously, right? But we're locked in on a direction. That way you don't get down to the lower time frame and you're like, ooh, I can buy, ooh, I can sell, ooh, I can buy, ooh, I can sell, which happens to many traders. Many traders are simply confused when they get down and they see reasons for buying and selling and they don't know what to do. And the truth is there's always a reason to buy and sell, right? Super trader secret, that's how the market moves, right? You need buyers if you want to sell. You need sellers if you want to buy. There's always a party interested, right? But then they get that paralysis analysis, they freeze up, they make an emotional decision, they go off what they see on Twitter, or X, whatever it is, and they get themselves into trouble. But you can see the conflict in the signal here. If you're going to take that method, well, it's telling you one thing, but your other method is telling you the other thing. So how do you know what to do? And this is why I tell you, never read that book. It's a curse. Or in reality, I say, I think it's a really great book to read, but read it after you've already kind of have your baseline of knowledge, right? Your fundamental thoughts and beliefs are kind of, I don't want to say set in the market because they're always growing, but you're not new and just learning about this stuff. So you're secure with how you trade, and that way you can take in new knowledge without necessarily being influenced. Because again, what happens to a lot of new traders is they read a book and then all of a sudden, right, the last, let me know if you've ever been here, the last book or the last video you read or watched is like the Holy Grail. So you just switch and do whatever that last thing says, and then you find a new video or a new book and you're like, oh, this is the best thing since sliced bread. And you go do what that thing says, right? And you bounce around in this hamster wheel, slowly wasting time and never kind of moving on as a trader because you're always, jumping from one thing to another thing. The key is we do want to evolve as traders. We want to grow, of course, but at some point we have to have a foundational knowledge and hopefully start trading. And then we can grow based off, hey, I know what I think about this. I'm still going to watch this with like a non-biased approach. I'm going to take the information in, but I don't necessarily have that temptation to like use everything I'm seeing in this video because I'm already making money doing the other thing. And if I find something interesting, I may dig into it more. If I find something that I can add to my strategy, I'll do that. But I'm watching it more for entertainment purposes, just for instead of like, I guess, educational purposes. I get it's educational, but you guys get what I'm saying. I'm watching it more for to learn, but I'm not doing it to do. Hope you enjoyed the video. Remember that live event starts October 24th, so mark your calendars. Also, if you ever want to hop in the live room with myself or Jason and talk some trading, break down some charts, find some opportunities, you can do so. Just head over to www.tier1trading.com. It is available with your 14-day risk-free trial membership. Remember, it's risk-free, no sneaky auto bill, no stolen money. You just lose access after 14 days. All right, www.tier1trading.com, and I'll see you there.